on the current situation with, I think, 14 days to go to the deadline of government funding running out?
You know, Chris, I think you've set it out pretty well. We are in chaos because there is no leadership. When Kevin McCarthy gave the gavel to Marjorie Taylor Greene in order to become Speaker, this was the inevitable outcome. Let's remember, we have a bipartisan deal that you just referenced that was made when they took the economy hostage back in May. And so we have the blueprint. It is what the Senate is acting on in a bipartisan way. The only people who are not upholding this deal are the House GOP. And that is a very bad outcome for the American people, who they have left out of the whole discussion while they argue among themselves.
So this is worth just taking a second to refresh people's memory that when they sort of had the debt ceiling standoff, right? We're not going to vote for debt ceiling. They actually passed a bill. The Senate passed a bill. They had to figure out what they were going to do, right? They struck a deal along with President Biden that said, here's the numbers for these different categories of the spending bills we're going to pass. Here's how they have to come in. And immediately, the folks in the House Republican caucus didn't like it. So what you're saying is, in the Senate, they're just basically sticking to those numbers and the blueprint of the deal, which is why they're going 91-7. And in the House, you've got this small rump faction that has the control of the caucus saying, we want to blow it up.
That's exactly it. In fact, it's even a worse situation for Speaker McCarthy because he insisted that he be the negotiator with the president. This is Kevin McCarthy's deal. And he, before the ink was even barely dry, was the one who allowed the most extreme part of his extreme caucus to undo that. And so he has driven this process into this place where he cannot get out of this in a way that is centered around the needs. And what's at stake? We are looking at wildfires in this country, and with a shutdown, saying to our firefighters, you are not going to get paid. We're saying to our troops, you are not going to get paid. The disasters, I was recently in Maui. There is no way you can see that kind of loss and devastation and turn around and say, we shouldn't be funding disaster aid for this country, whether it's from hurricanes or floods or fires. So what are we doing here? This has become a GOP in the House that is isolated in their extremism, that are walking back a deal that their speaker negotiated with the president, and it is time that they live up to it. And they are having a three-ring circus where they're arguing with each other and making threats to each other, and the American people are outside of the tent saying, focus on us.
So the procedural mechanism that they've been threatening, Matt Gaetz and some of these others, I don't know. I mean, Gaetz sort of by himself, I don't know. I guess Chip Roy, there's other folks. I can't really keep track of them all. But it's called a motion to vacate the chair. It would mean basically a privilege motion, which means it would actually go to a floor vote, right? I think it bypasses the normal kind of order that would bottle that or kill it or keep it out of rules. Like a privilege motion to vacate the chair. Here's my question to you. If Gaetz were to make good on that threat, we're going to vote to depose you as Speaker. Would Democrats would Democrats join Gaetz to depose him as Speaker?
Well, let me tell you this. Democrats get up every day, come to Congress, and worry about people keeping the jobs they have, getting paid a decent wage, being able to make their family's quality of life work. That's the job we're worried about. Meanwhile, we have a Republican caucus that is obsessed with Kevin McCarthy and using his speakership as leverage. The problem with having a speaker whose sole goal is to remain speaker is the American people get left out. And what we're seeing here is we are on the edge of a shutdown when we already have a bipartisan deal. And so this whole theater of the absurd, we could just sit back and just be amazed if the consequences weren't so real. And to hear my colleagues come out and say a shutdown doesn't matter. You know, you look our troops in the eye and say, we think you should work serving our country. We'll pay you when we're good and ready to. This is so devoid of the work here, our fundamental responsibility to put a budget forward. It can be a difficult and contentious process, but this year we already have the deal, and it's only House Republicans who are walking away from it.
Yeah, just move the deal like the 91-7 in the Senate, move in the House, you get a huge bipartisan majority, you lose some Republican votes, it doesn't matter, move on. There's a very simple solution to this. Congresswoman Katherine Clark, thank you very much.